there is a moment, maybe it comes to you in traffic, or at a party, or alone at night, scrolling through your phone. A strange stillness, like stepping outside your body. The world keeps moving, laughing, buying, selling. But you ask, why am I here? Not in despair, but in confusion. Albert Camus called this the moment of absurdity, when the world's silence meets your need for meaning. Chapter 1. Camus' Absurdity. You are not born with a script, no role assigned, no grand finale planned. The universe does not send you signs. The stars don't whisper your destiny. This can feel like terror. But it's not. It's the truth. And from truth, we begin. Camus tells us the world is indifferent, and that's okay. We do not need the universe to give us meaning. We give it to ourselves. Camus was born poor in French Algeria, 1913. A childhood marked by sun, silence, and struggle. His father died in war. His mother barely spoke. He grew up among life's harsh limits, which shaped his belief that meaning isn't given, it's made. He wasn't just a thinker, he was a man of action, writing against fascism during World War II, risking his life with the resistance press. To Camus, life's absurdity wasn't a theory. It was lived. And still he chose revolt. He chose to create, to love, to persist, even when the world made no sense. When confronted with the silent indifference of the universe, the human heart instinctively reaches outward or upward, seeking refuge in certainty. For many, the first impulse is transcendence, a leap into faith, a divine order imagined just beyond the veil of chaos. Kierkegaard called it the leap of faith, a surrender to something infinite, something that grants suffering a reason and death a purpose. But Camus stands apart, unmoved by the comfort of belief. For him, this leap is not an act of courage, but of abandonment, a refusal to face the absurd in its full and terrible beauty. It is, he says, a flight from truth disguised as salvation. To hope, he writes, is to give in to illusion, and illusion is the death of thought. Yet not all who flee do so through religion. There are others, perhaps more subtle, who escape by constructing elaborate meanings, inventing narratives of progress or destiny, not because they are true, but because they are bearable. These are the ones Camus accuses of philosophical suicide. Not a physical end, but an intellectual surrender, the quiet killing of honesty in favor of comfort. To pretend the absurd doesn't exist, to dress the chaos in orderly language and borrowed myth, is, for Camus, the deepest kind of betrayal. And so, with the calm severity of a man who has looked directly into the abyss, he makes his most devastating claim. There is but one truly serious philosophical problem, and that is suicide. It is not merely a question of life or death, but of whether life is worth living in full awareness of its silence. Camus does not ask this question to close the door, but to open it. In the refusal to escape, in the decision to live without illusions, he finds, paradoxically, the beginning of freedom. Chapter 2. The Absurd Hero, the story of Sisyphus. Camus said, "Let us imagine a man, a cursed man, condemned by the gods to an eternal task, a task to roll a great stone up a mountain, only for it to fall again and again and again. No end, no finish line, and certainly no reward." Sisyphus. The name itself sounds like struggle, but Camus, that cold, brilliant philosopher of the absurd, whispers something defiant. One must imagine Sisyphus happy. Why? Because the man knows. He knows there is no rescue, no miracle, no applause at the top of the hill, and yet he chooses to push. He owns the task. He embraces the loop, not because he believes in the outcome, but because he refuses to be broken by it. There is no greater rebellion than to smile inside your sentence, to turn the curse into rhythm, to find freedom within the futile. Sisyphus becomes more than a myth. He becomes a mirror of us, of every morning we rise, every weight we carry, every heartbreak we endure without surrender. There is courage in continuing. There is rebellion in refusing to quit. And in that moment, with dirt under his fingernails, breath ragged, the rock tumbling once more, he is not a prisoner. He is a hero. Not because he escapes the mountain, but because he climbs it anyway. Now apply this to your everyday life. Wake up. Coffee. Work. Sleep. Repeat. You're not cursed. But it may feel like it. The endless race one endures. But here's the key. When you recognize the absurd, you're no longer its prisoner. You choose how to walk through it. You choose your pace, your purpose. That's power. Chapter 3. Freedom in acceptance. The moment you accept life's absurdity, the moment you stop demanding that the universe explain itself, you become something rare. Free. Not free in the superficial sense of doing whatever you want, but free in a much deeper, more human way. Free from the endless pressure to figure it all out. Free from the exhausting pursuit of some perfect life plan, perfect job, perfect outcome. You no longer need the world to hand you a purpose. You stop waiting for clarity that may never come. Instead, you live. Fully. Presently. Now you start to laugh, not because everything is fine, but because you're no longer waiting for it to be. You love, not as a transaction or a search for completion, but as a quiet act of rebellion against a cold, indifferent world. You create, not to be remembered forever, but because creating is a beautiful way to say, I was here, I felt something, I gave something. That is freedom. Not the freedom to escape life, but the freedom to embrace it, despite everything. And in that embrace, you may just find a kind of meaning more honest, more grounded than any grand narrative ever promised you. If you felt this truth, if something inside you is stirring, consider subscribing to Cogito Rebellion. Join others who refuse to sleepwalk through life. Let's rebel with thought. Camus writes, "The struggle itself is enough to fill a man's heart." He doesn't mean war, not the kind with banners or bullets, but the quiet war, the one you fight every morning when you choose to stay. To begin again, you don't need an epic quest to live a meaningful life. No mountain summit, no divine approval. Now let's give some real suggestions for you. Make art, even if no one sees it, even if it's messy, incomplete, forgotten, because it made you present. Plant something, a garden, a single herb. Water it. Watch it grow slowly, stubbornly. That is defiance in its purest form. Sit beside someone you love and say nothing. Not every bond is built on words. Sometimes presence itself is the protest. Brew a cup of tea and drink it slowly. Feel the heat in your hands. Let your thoughts dissolve like steam in the air. Write something. A sentence, a poem, a journal entry no one will read. Each word is a thread you're weaving back into the fabric of the world. Fold your clothes. Light a candle. Listen to a record all the way through. These are not chores. They are rituals. Tiny flames you tend in the dark. In a world that demands distraction, attention is rebellion. In a culture of instant gratification, patience is protest. You are not here to fill a void. You are here to carve meaning into the stone. Deliberately, softly, every day. So revolt in your own way, not by shouting, but by showing up. To tend, to notice, to love what is fragile and fleeting. Because in the end, it is not grand victories that make life worth living, but these small, sacred acts of staying awake. Chapter 4. Absurdity in love. You can't talk Camus without talking about love, not the fantasy kind, not the neat, tidy kind. but the kind that persists in spite of absurdity. Camus never claimed that love solves the problem of meaning. He knew better. Love doesn't erase the absurd, it doesn't answer the silence, but it sings inside it. To love, truly, is not to possess. It's not to demand guarantees or outcomes. It's to choose, and then choose again, every day, in full awareness that nothing lasts forever, that promises are fragile, that tomorrow is not owed. To say, "I love you" in the face of cosmic indifference is not weakness, it's defiance. It's a song sung during a storm, a candle lit in the wind. An absurd act, yes, but also one of the most human. Camus wrote, "Love, too, is a rock we roll each day, not to reach a summit, not to receive applause, but because we chose to roll it, together." And that choice, made freely and repeatedly, becomes a kind of truth, a rebellion without a flag, but full of fire. Chapter 5. The Ethics of the Absurd Life. If life has no ultimate meaning, no divine judge, no final scoreboard, then how should we live? This is where Camus refuses to slip into nihilism. He doesn't say, "Nothing matters, so do anything." He says, "Nothing is absolute, so we must choose carefully." If there's no higher law commanding kindness, then kindness becomes our own decision, and that makes it sacred. Camus builds an ethics not on dogma, but on dignity. He rejects cruelty, not because it's forbidden, but because it degrades what little we have: each other. Even when the world celebrated violence, even when ideologies dressed up murder as progress, Camus stood still. He would not cross that line. To him, the absurd life is one of limits, of restraint, of compassion chosen freely. To say life has no ultimate purpose, and still choose to protect it, is one of the noblest acts we can perform. No gods required, no heaven promised, just the simple, stubborn act of care, of protecting what is fragile, even when nothing demands it. This is not weakness, this is ethics, under pressure. And in the quiet refusal to harm, we find a new kind of meaning, one not handed down, but carved into the present by us. Modern absurdity. We live in curated absurdity, a theater of illusions played out on glass screens. Smiles, not for joy, but for algorithms. Movements choreographed for a gaze that isn't there. We hustle, not for survival, but for hearts, thumbs, and fleeting affirmation. The currency of performance. Scroll, compare, scroll, envy, scroll, escape, scroll again. An endless loop disguised as freedom. But you can stop. Not from fear, not from bitterness, but from awareness, the quiet rebellion of seeing clearly. See the machine. Feel its gears turning in your pocket. Its silent pull on your mind, your mood, your soul. Then step off the belt. Step out of frame. Into something unfiltered, unmeasured. Breathe, not for content, but because breath is yours, and this moment is real, even if no one sees it. Here, in stillness, you remember. You were never made to be a brand. You were made to be alive. Camus did not say life has no meaning to depress you. He said it to free you. From expectations, from illusions. You are not waiting for a perfect moment. You are the moment. So dance, even in the dark, especially in the dark. You felt it, didn't you? That strange silence at the edge of thought. Don't run from it. Step into it. Let it crack your old habits. Let it burn away the false noise. This is Cogito Rebellion, a thought on fire. Leave a comment below. What part struck you? In the next episodes, we'll explore other voices who wrestled with meaning and clarity in their own way, from G.E. Moore's quiet certainty to the defiant logic of Bertrand Russell, and the radical doubt of David Hume. Each will take us deeper into the strange, beautiful question of how and why we live. So, subscribe and turn on notifications. We are just getting started.